On today's podcast, I had John Sullivan, who's a realtor here in Las Vegas, who is absolutely killing it. He did over 100 transactions by himself, which is enormous. You see a lot of teams do over 100 transactions, but for one man to do it by himself is crazy good. We talk about how he did it, how he prospects. Give you a quick hint, he does over 5 hours of cold calling a day. Even at this level of success, he's still doing it. And a lot of that came from his background as a pro footballer, aka soccer for here in America. We talk about all of the skills he learned as an athlete, how he used that discipline and that drive to take it into real estate. He also came from England. He's only been doing this for the last 6 years. To have that amount of success in a new country, in a new career, that quickly is absolutely insane. So you guys are going to want to stay tuned to the end of this podcast because we talk about how he's going to scale it even further. And I also give my thoughts on where I think real estate is headed in 2030, what the job of a realtor will look like. It's really cool. So that being said, also, I forgot to mention, make sure you sign up for the Wealthy Way. Okay, go to wealthyway.com. You can go get access to the online course. You can get access to our planner. You can get access to our Discord community. It's all completely free. So go to wealthyway.com. Now, let's jump into the podcast. Are you looking to grow your real estate investing business? My company, Future Flipper, can help. We've taught hundreds of people all over the country how to flip, wholesale, and buy rental properties. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your investing journey. Whether you're trying to get your first deal or scale your company, Future Flipper can help. We have courses, coaching, and events for all levels of investors. So if you want to take the next step, go to futureflipper.com and book a free consultation to see how we can best help you. Once again, that's futureflipper.com. If you've ever wanted to invest with me on my real estate deals, it's now possible. At Pineda Capital, we're purchasing value-add real estate all across the country. This includes multifamily, commercial, and land development. The best part is, with my network, social media presence, and marketing strategies, we're able to get the very best deals that others don't have access to. You can join in with me on those deals if you're an accredited investor. If you want to learn more, head over to pinedacapital.com to see our current opportunities. Once again, that's pinedacapital.com. Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where our mission is to invest.
I only expect to make money in things that I understand.
Innovate.
It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past.
And inspire. I am much more likely to hit my goal just due to putting it out there.
You're now rocking with the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Pineda Show. Today, I have one of the biggest agents in Las Vegas, and in fact, one of the biggest agents in the country, someone who I have seen is extremely relentless in everything he does, even after achieving success. You guys are going to love to hear what he's still doing to this day to generate income and prospects and leads and deals. I've got none other than John Sullivan. What up, dude?
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. So, man, for people who don't know you, give them like a quick rundown of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name's John Sullivan. I'm a realtor here in Las Vegas. I moved here from England 7 years ago, and I just run a traditional real estate business. You know, I have no frills. It's kind of a very standard policy and process, and I'm just a residential realtor here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and he's being humble with that. We were talking before we got on. How many sales did you guys do this year?
So this year, between me and one other agent, we're about 160 closed and pending. So out of that, myself, I'm about 115 of those deals.
Yeah, and the relentlessness of you yourself doing 115. Like, you know, when I see these big teams and stuff doing, 100 plus deals, I'm like, yeah, they got a big team. They're putting it under one guy or whatever. And I'm like, no, this dude literally does over 100 deals like on his own. And, you got assistants and other stuff, but I'm like, you're still going on appointments. You're still representing buyers. You're like still doing this and crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, as time goes on, I'm building a great database of clients who I feel like I've served very well. So I'm starting to see that referral business came in. I probably saw that come in like year 2 or 3 is when I started to see that. But we live in Vegas. It's very transient. People are always coming and going. People don't really buy their houses here and stay for 20 years. They buy and then want to move in 2 years. So it's a great market to do the system that I do in Vegas.
Right. So, let's talk about how you started, because you had a very similar background to me in that you were also a pro athlete who kind of walked into real estate. Tell me like your upbringing in England. What was the goal?
Yep. I mean, the goal in England was to always be a professional soccer player, and we call it football, obviously. About 13 or 14, I wasn't picked up by a pro club and didn't think that would happen. Luckily, I got picked up by my boyhood team, Brighton, who I supported and used to go to every game with. Went through the youth ranks with them, managed to get into their youth team academy setup, left school at 16, and pretty much went full-time professional.
So as a 16-year-old, you're going into the professional ranks. Did you even graduate high school or anything?
We don't really do that in England. We're just like, you know what, you're done. So in England, we finished school at 16. I think that may have changed now. So at 16, you either go to college or you go and learn a trade. You go and learn how to fit carpets or to be a plumber or something. This is the way it is in England. It's very different. And I went to become into Brighton's academy. So I was making the first year £45 a week, which was about $60 a week. Then the second year I made like $75 a week. And then on my 18th birthday, they gave me my first pro contract, which was about $400 a week or something like that.
Okay.
And then from there, I just kind of worked my way into the team, and I played for like 10 different pro clubs until I was about 26.
Wow. So, you go to school, Brighton. This is kind of like, I think of it in the U.S., what is it called? Like IMG or something that's in Florida, where they have like these kids go to this high school, which is essentially not really school. It's just to get good at sports. Is that what that was?
I actually went to a regular school. I just managed to get picked up by Brighton. I was playing every Tuesday and Thursday with them.
Okay.
And then when you finish school, they had to make a decision whether I went with them or if I didn't, and I would go off to college at that point and maybe study like sports science or something like that. And they said, hey, we're going to offer you a 2-year academy contract where you basically are acting like a professional soccer player. You're learning how to be a footballer, and then you try and make the ranks from there.
Okay. So what was that process like? Basically that's like the minor leagues for baseball.
Yeah, a process for life. It was just like, it was tough. You wake up every day early, get the train to training. You have to get the train, public transport. You'd have to clean all the players' boots. You'd have to clean the changing rooms. You'd have to do. It just taught you how to be probably a man. It just taught you to grow up, which is kind of different now. I know it's very different based on the world that we live in now. They can't really do the stuff they used to. I mean, we used to get beaten up by the pro players. I mean,
right.
If we made a mistake, they would come and get you. They would pin you up, So it gave me a great basis in life. And, I was only 16. So between 16 and 18, I grew up so much.
Right. So then you go into 18, they give you a contract. You're making $400 a week, right?
Yep.
Very similar to me, where I was making $1,200 a month, and I'm like, man, like I'm living my dream, but dang, dude, this is hard.
Yeah, I didn't really think about the money then because I, especially in England, we don't make as much money in general as you can in America. Okay. That's one of the biggest things I've learned is like the opportunities here in America are just, for where I come from, not normal. So for me, I was just living my dream. My parents were helping me out. I managed to buy my first property in London when I was 20, when I moved to another team. So I made some good moves along the way, but I was always living paycheck to paycheck. And in England, you get paid once a month. You get last Friday of every month, you get your paycheck. And you get taxed about 40 to 45%. So,
jeez.
Yeah, so it's anyone who moans about taxes in America, move to England.
Jeez, that's crazy. So you bought a house at 20. How much was the house?
It was $226. It was a 2-bedroom condo. Duplex condo, so like 2 floors. My dad lent me the down payment, which was about £40,000, which I paid him back when I sold it, and 226,000 English. So that was probably about 300,000 American at the time.
So what made you want to buy it at 20 years old?
I moved to a team in London. I was playing for a team called Charlton and a team called Millwall, who were kind of in the London area. So I just wanted to get on the property ladder. I was just wanted to kind of make that big move. And in England, that's a very big move to make. I think the average age of a first-time home buyer is about 37 in England. So
wow,
I just wanted to just make that jump.
Wow. So were you just interested in real estate from the beginning, or that was just like, I need a place to live or an investment or whatever?
Need a place to live. So when I moved to my first team in London, I was living with a family and 5 other players.
Right.
It was great because we were getting fed every night and stuff like that, but we didn't have any freedom. I lived in a small bedroom. I've moved around. I've lived in hotels, and I just wanted my own space and my own base is kind of what I wanted. But when I was buying the property, I kind of enjoyed the experience and kind of learned a bit of interest about that then.
Right. Okay. So you go through that, you end up jumping around from all these different pro clubs and everything. And you said you retired when you were 26?
Yeah, I randomly came to America, celebrating with a soccer team. We had a match on the Saturday, and the owner came in and said, if you win today, I'm taking you to Vegas Tuesday. So we were like, well, we're going to go to Vegas Tuesday. So we won the match. Tuesday, we flew on an airplane, got to Vegas. We stayed at Bally's, I remember it. He gave us all an envelope of $500 each. So there was like 30 of us, so we had about 15 grand. And what do you do when you're in Vegas? Let's go to a nightclub, you know?
Yeah.
So I went to a Pure nightclub at Caesar's Palace, which is now Omnia, and met my wife, who was my cocktail server that night. So kind of a typical Vegas story. So went back to England for a year. We stayed in contact and FaceTimed a lot. And then I was just burned out. I just felt like I'd reached I just felt like I'd reached what I wanted to do in the game. I was going backwards. I knew I didn't really have the ability to really have a huge push to go high. So I just decided a year into a 2-year contract to rip it up and move to America.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, for me, when I gave up baseball, this was in 2017. What year was it for you in soccer?
It's been 7-8 years now. So probably 2013.
2013. Yeah. So in 2017, at that point, I kind of felt like you. I was like, man, my career's kind of at the end, and I'm not really having the passion I had for it anymore. I've been doing this a long time, and I was already living in Vegas in the off season, but I was like, I think it's time to just like go full force into business. And, thankfully I'd already been, doing real estate and flipping houses. So like, I knew I could be successful at it. But like for a guy like you, soccer's really all you knew.
All I knew, yeah, but there's nothing worse than feeling like you're just making up the numbers, and I felt like towards the end of my career, I wasn't an important part of that, so, but America is the best place in the world. Like, in my opinion, America is just amazing. So moving here and seeing the opportunities, and my wife randomly one day said, hey, I've got a friend who is in real estate. She does really well. I think you could maybe get into it. And I was like, okay, so I did it. And when I made my first few sales, I was like, the amount of money you can make is just not normal. Like, the seller will pay you this much commission to sell their house.
Right.
And I had a hard time with that at the start. Now I know that I bring a lot of service to my clients, but it wasn't that hard of a jump because I already had the discipline from sport. It was just like learning the techniques of how to get business. That was the biggest challenge.
Right. So, you're in a new country.
Uh-huh.
Were you guys married yet?
Yeah, so we were married already when I started. So I had about 6 months off. She took me to, my wife's from Hawaii, so I went to Hawaii a few times, and we did a little bit of traveling.
Yeah.
But as soon as I kind of got my license in September of 2015, I was all into real estate. I was just like gung-ho completely.
Yeah. So you go in, you sell a couple houses, dude. How'd you figure it out? Like,
I had 2 great mentors from day one.
Okay.
Craig Tan, who's my broker. So I randomly found Craig. I was going to join another brokerage and found him online very randomly. Called him. He answered the phone. I met with him. Someone well. He's a great broker here in town.
Yep.
And then the first day I worked with him, I was given a bunch of scripts from Mike Ferry, who's become a great friend of mine and a great mentor. So I had the best 2 mentors you could ever think of.
Yeah.
In residential real estate, it doesn't get any better than that.
Right.
So I didn't know anyone. I had no clients. All I had was time. So for me, it wasn't that hard to get going and to start making those phone calls and generating business. And of course, Craig failed me some leads and stuff like that. But it wasn't too difficult. It was just putting in the time and taking the action.
Right. So one thing I'll say is, for those of you listening, I know we get some realtors on the show. Many people are investment focused and other things, but Mike Ferry has been around a long time.
Yep.
You and I were talking. He's been doing like real estate education for 40 years?
46 years, yeah.
46 years. He's been teaching realtors, how to do sales, how to prospect, how to do everything with the business. And to me, anyways, the reason I was asking the question was because I failed as a realtor. In 2010, I got my real estate license at 21 years old. No mentor, no Craig Tan, no Mike Ferry, nothing, just like trying to figure it out, and I failed. And to me, the easiest way to fast track success is to get a mentor or a coach, right? Like it's you got super lucky that you got such a great guy in Craig, but you did the work into finding Craig, reaching out to him, and then showing him that train me.
Yeah.
People want me to train them all the time, but I don't train them because it's just like, dude, you ain't serious. You ain't about this. So you had to really show these people trust me, I'm going to put in the work. I'm worth your time.
Correct, yeah. And I was like every other realtor, what do you want to make? I want to make $100,000 a year. That's what every realtor says,
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the class and I failed the test 7 times too.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not. The
all right,
smartest.
I passed the first time.
Okay, so most people who pass the test first time fail as realtors. So that's not.
And I failed as a realtor.
So,
I'm not even licensed anymore.
So it was like every time I come home from the test, my wife was like, "Don't talk to me. I'm not in a good mood." So, but yeah, no. I mean, I just wanted to make 100 grand like everyone else. You know, back then that was so much money for me. I'd made it a couple of times in England playing football, but luckily, I just wanted to make 100 grand a year. I thought, you know, living in Vegas at that time, you could have a great life making 100 grand a year.
Yep.
But in the first 3 months with Craig, I think I closed 5 deals and made 27,000, and I didn't know anything. And I was like, I'm getting paid to learn the business here. To me, it didn't quite make sense. And then I went to my first Mike Ferry event in, I believe it was January of 2016. And I had a 15-minute breakout session where Mike puts on sessions where you speak to a coach. And I signed up for coaching there and then. So I signed up for a $12,000 a year. You know, that's what coaching is, $1,000 a month, 12 years. So
what was it? Tell me what it was like. Because a lot of people are listening to this, right? And, you know, you still didn't have a lot of money, right?
Mhm.
And, you know, granted, you made your money on these first 5 deals and you're like, you know what? I'm throwing it right back into coaching and education. Like, I need to get better. Like, what was it like taking the risk?
It was a risk, but honestly, my wife had a great job and she was making good money and she supported me. So for me, it wasn't so much about, I mean, having that conversation of $1,000 a month is a lot at that point. But
Right.
for me, I just believed in the vision of what they teach. And because Craig had gone through that and got to that point, at the time I joined Craig, he wasn't in coaching with Mike, but he had been through that system. So it wasn't that difficult. It's a little scary when you're signing the contract for a $12,000 contract in a business that you're new in.
Right.
But I also found it was weird that most businesses, when you're training, you're not getting paid.
Right.
And I'm making $27,000 in the first 3 months while learning the business. So for me, it was a pretty easy decision.
Right. So for anyone listening, you know, I just want everyone to know, like, there's so many good coaching programs out there, right? If you're a realtor, you shouldn't really come to me to learn being a realtor. I can't help you out. I sucked at that. Go to Mike Ferry. You want to learn real estate investing, house flipping, wholesaling? Come to Future Flipper.
Yeah.
Like, we have students killing it all across the country. And a lot of them have to make, you know, the tough decision of like, dude, do I want to invest a lot of money into my education? You know, I'm new in the business and, you know, maybe they haven't done a deal like you did, right? So it's a lot tougher equation, right? All I can say is you're better off just biting the bullet from the beginning and getting the right information and the coaching right away to figure out whether or not this business is for you.
Correct. And a lot of, and that's the best thing is speed up the process.
Yeah.
If it's not for you, you want to learn that quick.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say when I get to 10 deals, I'll sign up for that or I'll get a transaction coordinator. But what they don't realize is if they sign up immediately, they'll get there so much quicker.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all about speeding up the process in this business because the market's shifted. I mean, I've only been in real estate, 6 years now, and there's been so many different little shifts and little tweaks. You just gotta be fast paced. You have to make fast decisions and get after it.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I tell that to, like, my team, we know that, man, the world's changing so quick with technology, with the economy, with money printing. Like, in order to remain at the top, you've got to be willing to adapt quick. And like, even if you're a big dog, you know, I'm still sure you're like always thinking like, okay, what am I going to do next? Right? Like, you know, our revenue's down doing this. Like, what are we going to do to compensate? Or how are we going to make this better and, you know, get ahead? So.
I was probably more complacent when I wasn't as busy. And, you know, as you start to get better and stronger and make more money, you think a little bit different. And I think you can self-critique a lot more. That's something I think I've learned about myself is that I see realtors doing 20 deals a year who have a big ego and start, you know, trying to pick the right word. And it's not their fault. That's the environment they're in. Maybe they're the best agent in their office and everyone's building them up. But I feel like the better I'm getting and the older I'm getting, I'm finding it easier in a business standpoint to self-critique and say, you know what, this isn't working. Let's go to this kind of thing, you know?
Well, I think that's you brought up a good point about your environment, right? Like, if you're the big dog at your brokerage or anything you're doing, right? Like, you're like, dude, my stuff don't stink. Like, nobody can tell me anything, right? Yep. But then you get around big people and you're like, okay, like, I need to step it up if I want to be around these people.
Correct. You want to feel like you deserve to be at dinner with them or you deserve to sit down and have a coffee with them, you know? And that's one of the great things about Mike Ferry is there's agents making 7, 8, 9 million a year selling residential real estate, one house by one. I mean, that's incredible, you know?
It's crazy.
So being around those people and having access to those people has been just such a great life changer for me and really showing me what opportunities are out there if you just go after it, you know?
Right. So, you jump into getting great mentors right from the beginning. Obviously, that fast tracks a ton of what you're doing. What do the next couple of years look like?
First year, full year in real estate, I did 44 transactions. I was on Craig's team. Probably, I would say 80% of those deals were team leads from Craig.
Right.
I think 38 were buyers and about 6 listings I took. So that year I made $211,000 my first year in real estate.
Crazy.
Yeah, for me at that point, I'm first year in real estate. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Then second year, the first half of the year I was with Craig. And then I decided to go off on my own. But to do that, I had to have a plan of, I have to have a listing inventory, list to last kind of mentality. So second year, I think I did 56 deals, and I made, I think, 400,000 my second year. And then from there, in the third year, I did 75 deals, made about 600. Then I made the next year 900, doing about 98. Then I broke the 100 deal mark, and that's when I made over $1 million, and again, about 1.5 this year. So
that's crazy.
So you can speed up, you can scale quick,
right?
But for me as a residential realtor, if you're gonna be a realtor, you've got to get listings,
right?
That's the way to schedule to manage your time and stuff like that. That's really important.
Yeah. So let's talk about deal flow, because to do 100 deals, right? You got to have a plan for how are we going to get these leads? How are we going to prospect? How are we going to close them, right? Like, to do 100 deals, like, it's a given that you have to be a good salesperson.
Correct. Yep.
You got to close the people that you're attracting, right? But I think what's interesting is how you're getting all your leads and deals. Like, what are you doing?
Really, I'm on the phones 4 or 5 hours a day. That's kind of how I built my business. I don't pay for any lead flow. So majority of my days are spent calling expireds at the first thing in the morning, the brand new stuff, expireds for sale by owners, withdrawn, stuff like that. I try and go after them. Obviously, with the market being so hot, I haven't gone after them too much lately, because if a house is expiring, there must be, something severely wrong here with its price, because everything's selling.
Yeah.
And then I really move on to a lot of circle prospecting, the just listed, just sold. Tell people what you're doing. If you make a sale, call the neighborhood, whether you call, you door knock. Like, for me, that's worked really well. But my biggest investment has been back into my database. I only have 550 people in there from people I've worked with. But just calling them every 90 days, checking in on them, keeping them up to date with market trends, that's probably one of the best things I've done. And I spend an hour a day doing like lead follow-up. People who are ready to go now, like ready to sign a contract in the next 10 to 30 days is people I really kind of focus on.
Right. What's interesting about that is it doesn't matter whether you're a realtor trying to get leads, or, you're a wholesaler, house flipper trying to, get leads, or you're just a normal business trying to get leads. We always think about leads as trying to generate new ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're over here saying, well, dude, if you've already done business with somebody, if you just keep in touch with them, they're the best leads.
Correct.
Like, you've already served them, and they probably like their experience, and they've got friends, they've got family, they themselves probably want to buy a house. And I've said this time and time again with my own businesses. I'm like, you know what? I have many different businesses, and people who've bought from me in one business are my best clients to be new clients in another business, right?
Correct.
If you've bought tax from me, then there's a good chance that you could invest with me at Pineda Capital, or you could buy an e-com store, or if you want to, you're at Future Flipper, there's no reason that you couldn't get tax with me, right? So I think that circle prospecting is so huge, and people just neglect it because they make the money and they're like, all right, it's done.
Yep. And that's the biggest complaint. So when I started and I'd say someone would sell their house to me, but they bought it 2 years ago with someone else. Because I was so raw, I'd be like, may I ask why you're not using that same realtor again? And sometimes they wouldn't even know their name, right? So as soon as I close a deal, the first 30 days, I reach out to them 6 or 7 times, the 7th day, the 14th day, the 21st day, and the 30th day. And really what I'm trying to show them is, even though I've been paid, like, there's still a great service there that I have to offer, no matter what it is, whether it's a vendor recommendation, a landscaper, a pool builder, whatever it is. But then every 90 days forever, I'm calling that client. They're in my database.
And it's you.
It's me making that call. Now, as I scale and get better, could I have a team do that? Of course.
Yeah.
Like, if you get a $2,000 to $3,000 $2,000 to $3,000 people database.
Yeah, you only have so much time yourself.
But right now it's me, because they know me.
Right.
So, like, if I'm having bad days prospecting, I just hop on the phone and call 5 past clients. They
makes you
like
feel
me.
good.
It makes you feel good. It's a feel-good call. And I think this business is all about feeling good, all about,
confidence. It's like sports. You got to be confident.
It's a rhythm. It's really all about a rhythm. So for me, like, we're so focused on finding people we don't know, and we're neglecting the people, like you said, that we do know. And they're the biggest money returners,
Yeah, for sure. And they're not asking you why you're calling them.
Correct, yeah. And then sometimes that, and a lot of times I call and leave a voicemail and they don't answer. But the way I look at it is, if I bought a car and the guy called me and after 90 days and left me a voicemail and say, "Hey John, just want to check in, how's everything with the car?" Even if I never responded to him, that would make me feel like,
I'm gonna use that guy again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to him. That's nice that he did that.
Yeah.
And I think it's about calling with a purpose too, not just calling saying, "Hey, how's things going?" Like calling with some sort of information that's going to benefit the client.
Yeah, adding value to them, not just BS and wasting time.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's so good, man. And I'm curious to see, actually, I want to know more about this cold calling process because you've probably cold called more in a week than I have in my life.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. Like I remember when I was in real estate as a realtor, people were like, "Yeah, you cold call." I'm like, first off, I don't want to do that. And two, I don't even know who to call.
Correct.
So I just didn't even do that. But even as I've built these businesses, like I've still realized, I'm not going on the phone. So that's interesting to me that you said, because when you tell me that you cold call 5 hours a day, I'm like, oh, he's just cold calling, new people. But then you just said, no, like I'll mix it up, that way it's not just constant rejection all day.
So the first year was pure cold calling, and I got all my rejection out the way probably in the first 90 days. Once you get rid of over that fear of rejection, it's fine. You're never going to see that person again. They're on the other line of a phone. Who cares? If someone called me and I was having a bad day, I'd probably put the phone down on them too. So that's the mentality I have. But I don't think of it now as cold calling. I feel like I am calling to help someone. Like if there's a house that expired in the market today and it didn't sell and they still need to get to New York or something like that, I know I can help them if I get an opportunity. I know my numbers. It takes me about 55 people to set an appointment and about 40, I think about 65 to actually take a listing. Right. So I know my conversions, 80% conversion rate on appointments. So every 10 appointments, I get 8. So I think
that's like stupid high.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a good number. I think if I get to that 85 to 90% threshold on my appointments, there's definitely a few things I need to do better in terms of pre-qualifying my appointments. So when I turn up to the house, I really know everything about their motive. That's probably one of my biggest weaknesses is I don't do that all the time.
But to have a close rate that high, obviously you have to be pre-qualifying them tremendously before the appointment. Like I ain't wasting my time going on something that's not going to
Correct.
close.
You do, yeah. But at the same time, if I'm an appointment with someone and I feel like they're going to sign with me and they just say, "You know what, we need to think about it."
Yeah.
And I try and get over that objection and say, "Let's talk about it together." If they really say, "You know what, we just need to think about it," I'm going to let them think about it. I don't try not to do the real hard push sale because I think that's just going to put you off. There is a place for that when you know that if you leave that house, you're probably not going to get an opportunity again.
Right.
But yeah, I try to really ask a lot of questions, and that's something that Mike's obviously trained me, and just try and learn, why are they trying to do? What is their motivation to sell? Like, why are they selling?
Right. So you do that, you're cold calling, and it's not, like you said, even cold calling. It's just, I'm on the phone 5 hours a day.
Yep.
It doesn't get old?
There are days it gets old. It kind of feels the same way as the gym. Like the thought of going to the gym is horrible, but once you've done it, you feel good. So for me, if I prospect and if I go to work and I prospect for 4 or 5 hours, I make my contacts, I do my admin, whatever it is, and I have no appointments and it's 2:00 and I go home, I feel good about myself. I've done my job.
Right.
I feel better as if I don't prospect and take 3 listings from appointments that I've set before that day. So it does get old, but it works for me.
Right.
Now to scale quicker, there's definitely going to be some maybe things I may have to change in the future, but for me, it works and it makes me feel good. And I feel like I'm offering a good service to the community.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about scale. What's the goal long term? Do you want to be the biggest agent in Vegas and the country? Like what's the goal?
Yeah, the goal isn't to be the biggest. It's to be the most profitable. I've got to think about profitability for my family. I'm 33 years of age now. We started about 2 years building a small rental portfolio. So we currently have 12 homes that we own. I think for me, I'm using real estate as the vehicle to get me to my passive income goals. That's kind of where I'm leading towards. I'm still defining my goals, to be honest with you. Right now I'd love to get to a point where I'm making 100,000 passive a month. Okay. Kind of replicating similar to my income now. Right. But I would say the goal is for me the next 7 years to really go for it. So when I'm 40, I have a database that is bringing in 100 to 200 deals a year just from relationships and keeping in touch with people. Yeah. That's kind of a goal of mine right now, is to get to that point when I'm 40. Okay. Still be in the business, still be selling, but not maybe having the pressure of having to go after the real hard stuff as well as the good conversations with your database, you know?
Yeah, maybe your team is the one doing all the quote unquote cold calls and the new prospects. You're handling the people you've already worked with.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that would be as a goal of mine, but I'm not really interested in being the biggest and the best because there's always going to be someone bigger and better than you.
Right.
There's always going to be someone with a bigger budget than you or someone who's just generally better than you.
Right.
But I do feel like I'm on a good path, but it gets harder every year. You know,
Yeah.
we're ending 2021
Competition
now.
is fierce.
And the competition really is yourself, right? It's like, you know, that pressure every year of can I do it again?
Yeah.
And I know I can do it again, but there's a lot of sacrifices that go into that, you know?
Right, 100%. And, you know, we're talking a lot about goals, guys. So I don't know if you know, I just launched The Wealthy Way. So definitely go check out wealthyway.com. You can go get the planner to set your goals. You can get the Wealth Builder Academy. You can get the Discord community. Literally, it's all free. So definitely go do that to learn to set goals and to set them effectively in all areas of your life. But you mentioned one other part that I think is interesting, which is, have you ever wanted to invest in real estate, but you didn't have the time to find deals yourself? That's where Fundrise comes in. Fundrise is a crowdfunding platform that has transacted over $5 billion in real estate and has over 150,000 active investors. While many funds, like my own, require accredited investors, Fundrise allows anyone to invest with as little as $500. If you'd like to learn more, check out fundrise.com. Once again, that's fundrise.com. Are you looking to find off-market real estate deals? One of the best tools my team uses is Batch Leads. With Batch Leads, you're able to pull data, manage lists, and send text messages. On top of that, you can get nationwide access to the MLS to get pictures and comps. My team has used Batch Leads to get some of our best deals, so I know it works. If you want to start today, you can get half off your first month by going to batchleads.io and using the promo code Ryan. Once again, that's batchleads.io, promo code Ryan for half off your first month. Now, back to the show. Talent. You know, you said there might just be somebody who's just that much better than me.
Yeah.
And we had this conversation before jumping on the podcast about talent and social media and, you know, sports, right? You were like, do you think, you asked me this off camera, like anybody could just go, you know, dominate on social media and have the success you've had? And I said, well, I think anyone can have success on social media. I think anyone can find their voice and it can tremendously benefit their business. But there's a talent cap. Everyone has a cap to how talented they are. Whether you believe it or not, you know, not everyone can be LeBron, but LeBron needs a big supporting cast. And, you know, you can make a great living being on the bench in the NBA. You could be a great living playing college basketball and freaking, you know, parlaying that into other things. Like, so, you know, when it comes to talent, is there something that you think about, like with your own talent, that's got you where you're at today? Or like, do you feel like you're anywhere close to your potential? How do you feel right now?
I don't feel like I'm close to my potential.
Yeah.
Because just the opportunities in this country, you know, following people like yourself and just seeing what is out there, you know, following, you know, Mike and talking to Mike, and I played golf with Mike the other day and just hearing things that he has, you're like, wow, that's possible. And, you know, being around Craig and just how successful and how humble he is as well, which I think is a great point. But, you know, I would say my biggest natural talent is my energy and enthusiasm, you know, just in terms of when I'm meeting a seller, you know, it's not, for me, it's exciting. The fact that I could meet with someone, they could sign, and I could in return get a $10,000 to $12,000 paycheck.
Right.
And help them get where they want to get to.
Right.
So I would say my biggest probably natural talent is that. Probably the hard work. You know, I've really put in the hours in the first 5 years to kind of get to this point, and I've struggled with the balance of life with my wife and my daughter with that, and it's something which is one of my biggest goals, is to find some sort of natural balance. You know, it is difficult to find balance when you have bigger goals every year, but if you schedule it, it's very possible.
100%. And that's honestly what the Wealthy Way is all about, is helping people understand that. But like, it's all about time management when
Correct.
It comes to that balance. Like, you can have a ton of success in business, but also your family and everything else too, as long as you just schedule it and you time management right.
And I think the biggest thing I know I've suffered in over the years is when you're at the office, you're at the office. You know, it's great that you're friends and that with people, but you're there to make money. You're there to produce. You're there to get listings. You're there to make sales. So I think a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this, is you go to the office for 8 hours, you get home and your family say, oh my God, you had a long day. And then you really think about it, you're like, you know, I didn't do much today.
Yeah.
I wasted a whole day, and I made myself feel like I had a good day. So I think shrinking down the time of doing something. So, maybe a goal of mine can be, if I want to make 30 contacts a day, 30 people I want to speak to, can I change it instead of 4 hours? Can I do it in 3 hours? Because then I'm going to get an extra hour back in my day and I can be much more efficient. So I think efficiency for me is definitely something I need to work on. I feel like I'm on the right road, but it's still a daily challenge, Efficiency and staying on schedule with things going on is tough.
Yeah. Well, and there's a law that states, slipping my mind right now, but it's in the wealthy way, that if you give yourself a certain amount of time to do something, you'll get it done in that time, right? Because we all just procrastinate. If you give me 8 hours at the office and I know, I got to make us the 30 contacts, you will take 8 hours to make 30 contacts. Right. But if you say, you know what, I only got 3 hours to make these 30 contacts, guess what?
You're going to make them.
You'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've learned. I'm like you, like everyone in the office knows now, do not bother me unless we're like making money. Because this is, like you said, this is the office. This is business. This is not, hang out and have fun and whatever. Like, yeah, people have fun, but like everyone is here to do what they're supposed to do.
And I learned it from my soccer career. I spent so much time going for coffees and lunches with players, and I played with hundreds of players. I keep in touch with like 5 people.
Right.
And I look back at that now and I say, you know what? At the time we were friends, but looking back, it was more acquaintances, right? We haven't got that much time. No. Even though we're young, we don't. I mean, time's going rapid, especially when you have kids, as you know. It goes so much quicker, So I feel like if I'm going to get to where I want to get to, I've got to speed up the process. I've got to figure out a way to do more in quicker time. I just have to.
You know what's funny is on this podcast, right, we usually have, very successful people like yourself. And every single successful person I interview, like, talks about this in some kind of way. Because they've achieved success with business and making money typically. And they're like, dude, I just have to figure out how to get more time and how to balance it and, all these things. And it's kind of funny because other people who maybe haven't achieved the business success or whatever, they don't think like that. They're like, I got all the time in the world, right? Like, I need to make some money. Like, it's just this interesting dynamic that starts switching as you have more success and you're like, man, I need more than 24 hours. Like, what can I do?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to delegate more for a start. So I have 2 great assistants. I mean, I'm even thinking about adding a third. Anything that's not making you money, you got to try and delegate whatever way it is. Like you don't, after this finishes, you're not the one sitting at home doing all this stuff, right? You have a great team around you, but that costs you money.
Yep.
But you're buying time for that.
Yep.
So it's just, you just need more time, and we could play less golf, but we don't want it, So that's what my wife would say. She said, stop playing so much golf.
Well, and here's like how I looked at it was, I had my partner, Matt Bontrager with True Books, on the podcast recently. And we were talking about this. I was like, you know what? The reason I've been able to scale so quickly is not because I'm like just so much more talented than anyone else. It's that I am willing to not be cheap. I'm willing to buy a lot of hours from other people. And it was just like, if I have, say, 50 people working for me in my companies, right? And they're all working for me 8 hours a day. I got 400 hours I just bought. And if I'm competing against somebody who, doesn't buy any hours and they work 8 hours themselves, good luck competing against me. Like, I'm going to crush you.
Yeah.
And it's only because I'm willing to buy those hours and like understand too that even buying those hours, could I do it better than a lot of them? Sure. But there's a limit to what I can do.
Yeah, you have to let go.
Yeah, you have to let go. And so for me, it's like, dude, I got my own 8 hours a day. Okay. What am I willing to do with that? Like, what's the highest use of that time? Is it, editing a video? No. Okay. There's somebody else way better than me who can go edit it. But is it filming? Absolutely. I'm the only guy who can film the Ryan Pineda show. Yeah. Like, it is what it is. So, okay, there's an hour right there. All right. What else do I got? All right. Well, we're launching the Wealthy Way. Who else can like make sure that, all these things are going to play out the way it's playing out in my mind? Well, really, it's just me. Like, I have to be the one to do that. So everything else that we've got to do with, checking on properties or, doing TC work, I don't even, like, I have no idea what's going on.
Correct. So that's like in the real estate world, if this is for realtors out there who watch, I imagine our People who are actually doing residential real estate may understand this more, but for me, it's lead generation, talking to your database, negotiating contracts, going on appointments. They're kind of like the things I should be doing daily, in my business. And if I'm not doing them things, I'm essentially out of business that day.
Right.
That's the way I look at it,
100%. Yeah, and that's why I was curious, like, what your goal was with scaling, because right now, like, you are so good at everything you're doing, and you're so disciplined and such a hard worker. And I think, like, the next step of your evolution is going to be, how do you end up delegating to, like, the next level?
Correct. And I don't know that answer, which is, it's kind of scary that I don't know that answer, but exciting too, it's, everyone always wants to be, say, like a Ryan Pineda, right? People watch YouTube and say, I can do that. But it's real. I think it just comes down to what's your goals in life. Like, if you want to do 20 deals a year as a realtor, then have a schedule that gives you 20 deals a year.
Yep.
I believe that every realtor can do 50 deals a year. 40-hour work week, you can find one deal a week.
100%.
40 hours to find one deal, everyone can do it. And that's why when people say, what do you think makes a good realtor? Like, what's a good realtor? I think 50 deals as a realtor is great. I think 100 plus is phenomenal, and then you have these teams across the country doing 300, 400, 500, 600 deals. Yep. Look at Craig Tam, for instance. His team this year absolutely blew it out the water. I don't know the exact number, but they were, I think, number 6 in the whole city in terms of everyone.
Crazy. I had Mark Pattinson on the show out of San Diego, and his team, I forgot how many deals he said their team is doing this year, but the most in San Diego. It was absurd.
Right now, I'm not looking to have a big team like what Craig manages. I see what it takes, and I think a small profitable team of maybe 3 or 4 agents, 2 or 3 assistants, and myself. But the business is very reliant on me. So if I'm not working, we're not making money.
Right.
We need the database of my listings to bring the money in. So right now, if I step away, we're not making money. So I would love to get to a point where I can step away and we're still making money.
Right.
So I'd say that's probably a good goal of mine, but definitely for the next 7 years till I hit 40, I just want to try and build 20% every year in terms of how many transactions I'm doing in the team. We just added another agent, so next year between 3 of us, my goal is 204 deals. That's what I'm going to try and get to next year.
Have you ever thought about the opposite of, instead of less deals, just doing, ultra luxury?
I've thought about it. I think every agent thinks about it. It looks so glamorous, right? And you watch the TV programs where you could be, laying in bed and then someone calls you to sell their home.
Yeah. $10 million home? All right, I'll do it.
It would be a big shift. There's a couple of really big players in this town. The one that comes to my mind straight away is obviously Ivan.
Yep. By the way, we've done a bunch of videos with Ivan. If anyone's listening, you can go check those out on the YouTube video. Ivan's a great guy.
Yeah, I've never even met him, but just watching him from afar, the business he has and the luxury is just incredible, and the systems he has. He meets the client, then he has an agent, takes it basically from start to finish. It's real clever, but not really. I feel like I'm someone who likes a lot of stuff going on at once. As time goes on, and maybe that's something I shift to, but I think that's a big shift to make from what I'm doing now to go to that place. I don't think you can just do it overnight.
No,
personally.
no.
There's going to be there's going to be a big changes to make if you want to do this. So right now, it's not something I really think about. I like the volume. I like adding 100, 200 people to my database every year of people I can work with as opposed to 10.
Right.
There's 100 people who's talking about you and referring you instead of just 10 high-end buyers or sellers. But definitely, every agent would love to be a luxury agent like I am. It's phenomenal.
You know what I always think about, and this is me personally, just in all my businesses, right? Because in every business, I think you get capped with your current business model. And you get capped for many reasons. It could be because maybe you're the one doing it all. It could be because that's just the cap for your industry or your market, right? Like, I look at a guy like Ryan Serhant. Him and I did it IG Live a few months back. It's like, he has the ability to do a ton. He's in New York where there's freaking, these $100 million buildings and stuff, right? Like, a guy in Vegas can't do what Ryan Serhant does. Correct. It's impossible, right? Because we're capped by our market and our resources, and there's just way more real estate to sell in New York than there is in Vegas. So I think about that too in all my businesses. I'm like, okay, my first business that made me successful was house flipping. I'm like, okay, how much could I realistically do house flipping here in Vegas if I were to put everything behind it? And I found that, probably 200-ish was the number. I was like, we could probably do 200 flips if I really hired a sales team, marketed, did all the stuff, accept lower margins on the flips to get there.
Okay.
But then there becomes this point where it's like, man, to do 300 to 500, we'd have to take insanely low margins to hit that kind of volume. So, the other side is, well, if we want to hit 500 flips, I need to go to another market, right? Maybe I do 200 in Vegas. I do another 200 in not Cali because they tax you too much, but, Arizona,
Utah, something like that.
something close, right? Texas, something with big opportunity. And I'm like, okay, I'm playing it out through my mind of how to scale. And I'm like, okay, if I hit 500, whatever, I got to raise this much money. I got to get this much contractors. And I'm like, dude, this is kind of brain damage. Like, I don't want to do this, right? I don't want to put myself at that much risk. I don't want to manage that many projects. Like, that's a nightmare. And so I made the decision personally. I said, you know what? With my house flipping business, I'm cool flipping 100 a year. If we do more, if we do 150, great. But like, I'm done trying to grow that because we're constrained by the market and what it is. But it doesn't mean that I'm done personally making more money. I'm like, okay, well, what other opportunities are out there, right? And that's what led me down the path of all these other businesses. They were just better opportunities than real estate. And it's like, for instance, Mike Ferry. It's like, dude, Mike Ferry sold real estate and did stuff. And then he realized a better opportunity was teaching everyone else how to do it.
Correct.
And he makes way more doing that than anything else, right? And, I learned that. I learned social media was an amazing opportunity, that, e-commerce was an amazing opportunity, that Pineda Capital. These are all way better opportunities than my original first business. Mm-hmm. So the reason I tell that story to everyone listening and to you is like, we can have a ton of success in our first core business, but at some point, we have to make the decision if it is to scale, like, are we able to scale the current model, or do we have to completely do something totally different? Or is this a business I want to even continue to scale as an entrepreneur? Is there something else I should be doing?
Correct.
So,
and that's just thinking big though, right? That's like
right.
Always where a lot of people do get comfortable,
It's easy to be comfortable making, 200,000 a year or $1 million a year. And trust me, like, I don't spend $1 million a year. Like, I'm totally fine. Like, if I made $1 million a year the rest of my life, I'd be really good. But for me, I guess the desire to always improve is what keeps me going. I'm like, dude, I want to make more than last year. Just for the simple fact of, not that I'm going to spend it, just I want to get better.
Well, and the world is getting more expensive too, though, right?
That's true too.
Like things are. So I think it is that daily challenge of wanting to. I haven't had a year yet in real estate where I've gone backwards. Not yet. Will there ever be a year where that happens? I hope not. But if it does, I imagine mentally that would be tough to deal with,
It happened to me in 2019.
Okay.
And then it actually was the best thing that ever happened to me. 2018, first year I flipped over 100 houses. 2019, I had a down year because I ended up buying a lot of bad deals in 2018 and I mismanaged a lot of things and I had to recover from that. And it made me that much stronger going into 2020 dealing with like getting punched in the face for the first time.
Yep.
So I think it's actually, I look forward to the day you go through like something like, because you've been on the up and up the whole time.
The whole time. And the market has been too, though. So when I look at 2021, I did slightly less transactions in 2020, only by 4 or 5. So really, I made more money this year, but because the economy was better.
Right.
I didn't make more money this year because I did better. So that's a goal of mine next year is obviously make more money, but get my numbers back up, because at this point in my career, my numbers shouldn't be going backwards. They should be going forwards,
Yeah, with the database and, everything just continuing to gain with momentum and all that.
Correct.
What do you think's going to happen to, I always ask this to the realtors. I'm like, what do you think's going to happen to realtors in the future, dude? Everybody thinks realtors are going away and, all these things. People have been saying that forever, though.
Yeah, they've been saying it forever. I honestly don't even think about that question because I feel like I bring a lot of value to my clients. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's always going to be that personal touch that's needed for a transaction for some people. There are people who can buy something sight unseen online. They're fine with that. But I do feel like a traditional family who are maybe making a scary move across state or moving up, moving down, I do feel like that personal touch and hand-holding to an extent is important. So I think the good ones are going to last, and then I think there'll always be a constant kind of flux between people who are coming in the business and leaving. With 20,000 realtors in Vegas right now, it's pretty intense.
There's like 4,000 houses on the market?
Yeah, it's like not even anymore. I think over half of them have been on the market 30 plus days. So we really have no inventory right now. So I think the good will last, a bit like probably your industry. I think the good realtors are really going to last. We've already been under threat by a lot of companies like Zillow, OfferPad, Open Door, and sometimes you just have to accept that a seller's going to use them because it's easier.
Yeah.
You don't have to show their house. They don't have to clean up their house. They have dogs. They have kids.
It's another option. It's not.
It's another option for sure. Do I feel like we can get more money if we do it the traditional way? A lot of the time, but actually last year, no. There was a couple of times I sat with sellers when they showed me offers from Zillow and stuff, and I said, you better take that offer. And since then, they've referred me because they appreciated I told them the truth.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way I could get them the number that they were getting offered at that time, you know, when they're really competing and stuff.
Yeah. You know, and for us at Home Run Offer, we competed against those guys, and we still do. But, you know, same deal. Like, our guy would go on an appointment. He would see their offer, and he'd be like, dude, don't even talk to me.
Yeah.
Don't talk to a realtor. Like, literally, you better take that money before they, like, realize that they're way overpaying you.
And now they're selling for a lot under price, you know, and like they're buying them and selling them for less, which I've been seeing. But I think the good realtors will be around here to stay. I mean, from the people I've spoken to, like Mike and stuff, he's been saying that realtors are going to be replaced since the 80s and 90s. That's what people have been saying. So, you know, as long as we're still bringing value to the industry, I just accepted that we're always going to have a bad reputation like car salespeople.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And
people think, like, car salespeople are going away because guys like Tesla just sell direct. But it's like, they're still here.
they're still here. And there's always going to be that one person who wants to drive 3 or 4 cars and wants the salesperson with them and wants to go through. And it's just a different dynamic. And my pool of people I attract may be smaller. So I just have to be better with my skills in terms of my, you know, getting the same amount of business or more by a smaller audience.
I'll give you my theory. I don't know if I've ever said this on the show. I do think, and I don't know at what time frame this will happen, but it will happen. It's my belief that realtors will kind of end up like transaction coordinators for the most part. I think, you know, there will be I think it will be a unique service where a realtor actually takes you through houses and meets you in person and does all that. Like, that will be like a niche service. What I think the realtor will become is, you know, as Matterport and all these virtual reality things start happening, clients will be able to go walk the houses themselves. Like, this will happen very easily. Like, you know, every agent will eventually list a house in 3D. Freaking client can go throw on their Oculus and go walk 10 houses by themselves without the need of a realtor, see the floor plan, see everything. And they're going to be able to make decisions of like, dude, I want that house. And what's going to happen is they're going to call whoever realtor and say, hey, I walked this house already. Like, can you make sure I'm not getting screwed, right? Yeah. Like, and take them through the transaction and whatever. And, you know, the realtor takes them through the transaction. Now, instead of maybe the 3% they were getting before, maybe they only make 1% doing it. But here's the deal. Like, it was way easier for the realtor. Like,
you could scale and make more money.
Yeah, you've been through that, to taking a buyer to 30 houses, like, and putting all these hours into it when now these buyers can make a decision. Like, they call you, they're ready to roll.
Which is good, because the longer time you spend with a buyer, especially, the less chance you have of closing them. And that's what I say to everyone.
And the listings will sell quicker too, because now you have 1,000 buyers walking through it from all over the world. Yeah. They don't need to be in Vegas to go check out the house. It's going to be crazy, dude.
Well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
What's that, like 2061 or something like that?
Honestly, I said I wasn't going to put a number on it, but honestly, I think by 2030, it will be that way. And I think that will be the norm. And then the in-person stuff will be niche. And
you think more luxury will be in person?
Yes. And that's where I was going to say is, like, I think there will be niches of luxury agents where, like, those people, they'll do their due diligence walking through the house, but they have to see that in person, right? And I think it'll become the norm where it's like, you'll make all your commitments virtually, and then you'll do like a final walkthrough in person to like
correct, just to make sure it doesn't. Yeah, because any realtor should be able to price properties remotely. Now, when you get to the house, there's normally some stuff like a crazy backyard or pool, or the house may smell of smoke, so that may be, you know, sort of things like that. But for general, we should be able to price things from a distance, you know.
Well, and think about it too, man. You started in 2015. I started in 2010. Like, it is so different with how buyers buy houses now. Like, they call you and they're like, I saw this house on Zillow. Like, I already know I want it.
They have the information, just as much as us.
Yep.
They have all access to all the properties, and that's very common that buyers bring you the property now that they want to see.
Yeah, and they're already doing this. They're like, John, take me to the property. I just need to see it in person, and I want you to negotiate for me and make sure that, you know, everything's cool.
Correct.
So it's already happening, but I think it will happen this way even more efficiently, and realtors will make less per deal. But you can go do deals now in multiple states, right? Because like, why couldn't you go transact these everywhere,
Every places.
virtually,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think there'll be people that, I mean, we already do it. Like Redfin does it, right? They give, somebody goes and shows the house for $25 or something.
$25 and then their agents are on salary and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah,
So
that will happen. Like you could have agents in all these states and friggin', hey, go show this house, $25.
and there's a couple of agents at Redfin who are phenomenal agents who just like the comfort of the salary. You know, and I always say to them when I work with them, like, you're a great agent. Why don't you go off on your own? And they say, I like the security of the constant business, you know?
Yeah.
But they're working 7 days a week and they don't have a transaction coordinator or whatever, and they're doing it themselves. But there are people who just prefer that salary kind of, maybe salaries will come into real estate more where people just want a fixed income.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it becomes more of a transaction, like real estate agents become more transaction coordinators than anything, which is fine. It's just, you can do way more. It's just the world will change. And here's what I also think is going to happen. I've been talking a lot about the metaverse and everything else, but I think the amount of real estate you can sell is going to 10x because you're going to be able to sell real estate here in the real world, but you're going to also sell metaverse real estate. There's going to be metaverse agents, and you know, you're going to know these metaverses where, you know, people can walk them. You guys are walking them together, and they just need somebody who's an expert to help them understand, hey, this is why you should buy this land here versus that land, because I know so-and-so celebrity owns that piece of land over there. Like, it's going to be freaking nuts, but I'm like almost certain this is how it's going to play out.
It'll be interesting to watch back in 10 years or 2030 and see.
I know Gary Vee does like these ones where he's like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We got to save this clip because I think it's going to I'm pretty certain it's going to happen.
Okay. That'll be interesting. So 2030. So there we go. 9 years to see where we're at.
9 years, I'm pretty confident it will happen. I think metaverse and VR and everything will be developed enough by then. I think it'll start. I don't know. I'm already talking about it today, right?
Yeah.
But I think by 2030, it'll be pretty standard.
Okay.
So I don't know. Start building your business around the future.
I'm going to go sign up for Metaverse.
I actually was watching Ryan Serhant's latest video. By the time this release, probably won't be as recent, but he was showing his new brokerage, you know, Serhant. It was like this 15,000 square foot office.
It's awesome, yeah.
And he was like, this is going to be the office of the future. You know, he talked about social media and podcast and content like that. I've been saying that for years. Like, this is the future. This is how you get business. But at the end, he showed his little Oculus headset, and he was like, I'm not going to say like what we're doing, but you know, here it is. Like, you guys can just guess. And it's like, he obviously knows, like, this is where it's going.
I look at him as the benchmark for realtors. You know, yeah, he had a great platform with the show, $1 million listing, but he probably would have been successful anyway.
I mean, other guys did too. They're not as big as him.
Yeah, but he's so forward thinking. You know, I put him in the category of people like yourself. You know, I feel like Craig's forward thinking. Even Mike Ferry to an extent, even though people think he's, you know, I'd say one at a time, people say he's an old dinosaur. I still think he's ahead of the curve in terms of what could happen in the future.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as COVID hit, he told all of us as clients, call your database, call your database, call your database. And database was the biggest return. He said, call those people and check in with them and see how they're doing. We're going through a pandemic.
Yeah.
And, you know, just being that forward thinking, I think, something which I would like to develop more in the future to just stay ahead of the curve all the time.
Yeah, dude. Well, man, you're killing it either way. And I think you're just going to continue to kill it, and you're going to continue to evolve and adapt and, you know, keep growing. You've grown every year, and I've got complete confidence that you'll continue to do that, man, regardless of what the world of real estate looks like, you know, tomorrow or 10 years from now. So I appreciate you coming on the show,
Thanks
dude.
Thanks
yeah, man.
Me.
It's been a lot of fun. And guys, you want to go learn more about John? We'll link to all of his socials below. Go check him out. Go give him a follow. And thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe. I'll see you. Peace. Thanks for watching The Ryan Pineda Show. If you want to work with me, head over to ryanpineda.com. You can find my courses, coaching programs, and upcoming events. We also have free resources you can download, so head over to ryanpineda.com.